That's what I love as well, because I think in real life I find that really difficult, because everybody goes around and they're wearing these masks, right?
Yes.
We're all, you know, having to put up a front and pretend to be something that we're not really.
Yes.
We're beating hearts underneath it all, but we have to cover that up, you know, and not show our vulnerability. And it's so beautiful. What's so magical about being on a set is that everybody lets their guard, not everybody, but when you're acting with somebody, you know, as an actor, you have to let your guards down and you have to let someone in to that most vulnerable of places, which you let very few people in, you know, and connect on a really soulful level. And that's very rare that you do that with anybody. And to do that with a stranger, I think, is such an extraordinary thing.
I think I feel very lucky that that's what I get to do. And I know that each project becomes this little family. And certainly on 20th Century Women it did. It was this sort of unnatural, immediate, sort of shared vulnerability, and that there's a connection that happens and it also really only happens in that place. And so it sort of intrigues me about people who don't do what we do, and they don't come into the work situation with this deep intimacy and you know, shared sense of, okay, we don't have to pretend. We don't have to have small talk. We can really get right down into it. And that bond, even when the project is over, like I talked to Julianne Moore the other day, we played lovers in this film, and we didn't know each other. And we barely, I mean, I think we had like a day and a half to rehearse, and we just did it. And it seemed very natural to me and to her as well. So,
but I think that vulnerability that you have to have and you have to be willing to kind of dive in, I think it makes it quite difficult to live with that in everyday life, because
that's right.
You know, your senses have to be heightened in a way that I think generally doing other jobs you don't necessarily, well, you couldn't survive like that. I don't think.
You would go around like a wreck all the time.
Yeah. But I always think it's so amazing that people talk about actors and say they're prima donnas and, you know, they're really difficult, and because that is not my experience at all with actors, because I think they're incredibly open human beings and they have to be able to do their job.
Right, and the fear that goes with it.
Yes.
And the insecurity and the having to climb back up each time and
the bravery, the steeliness.
That's right,
well,
which I'm sure you had to do for this. Because walking onto that set, having that amount of time, knowing
that my first scene is playing full-on crack addiction, and I miss no smoking, no alcohol drinking, no coffee drinking even, you know, health nut from London. Yeah, it was quite a departure.
My dad pulled me aside when I was like 25 and was like, I think it's time for you to go to law school. Was like, I think you should, or graduate school. He's like, you know, and I was obviously like working a lot and like, you know, and he was like, I think you should find something like